Hello, I'm Dr. Brian Lippincott, and I'm pleased to have you here tonight or today. And I'm a clinical psychologist and a professor at the John F. Kennedy School of Psychology at National University. And I am going to give you a little talk that is for my social justice class, but it's a talk about Jungian psychology and dream work and some of the new anthropological evidence that's coming out about dreams and how to use dreams in clinical practice and what the meaning of those are. So I am going to take a second and share my screen. And I think you can see that. Taking
Work and cultural interpretation. Okay. And in this particular class, we're looking at culture, which is a really important thing. Psychologists and anthropologists share much in common regarding the study of dreams. Dreaming clearly emerges out of each individual's brain, mind, and personal life experiences. Dreaming is one of the most intimate things that we have. It happens all alone inside of our own head, yet it's connected with our whole culture and our whole world. I mean, hence, as we start to destroy the environment, people have different dreams of animals are clearly changing. And if you record people's dreams over generations as the environment changes. Yet dreaming also clearly reflects the individual's cultural environment, the languages, customs, concepts, and practices of his or her broader community. To understand dreams, we must find ways to understand both of these meaning dimensions. And that's part of what this class is about. And I'm just utilizing dreams. It could be art of kids. It could be the language that people use when they describe their problem in psychotherapy. But dreams is a prime example, and also that anthropologists, and there are a lot of researchers in that area. So earlier I was talking about the intersubjective field. Just so we got our language right, we have transference and countertransference. Transference is the client's feeling, usually from their own early childhood, their own attachment, that's being projected onto the relationship with the therapist. The therapist is kind of like the coach or the leader or the parent, or they're the zone of proximal development. They have a little bit more wisdom or a little bit more experience at least. Okay, and countertransference is the therapist strong reactions to the client, and these form a interactive circle here where they interact off of each other. Okay, dreams can be interpreted at three different levels: the subject, the objective, and the transferential. So the subjective is basically interpreting a dream, saying that everything in the dream is a part of me. So if I dream of a zombie is chasing me, and I have a knife, the zombie, me, are all aspects of my own personality, which research, Jung, for instance, said that about 90% of the dreams are subjective. In other words, everything in the dream is it's made up by the person as an aspect of their own psychology, of their own inner world. The objective level refers to images in the dreams at the subject's view of external objects. So, for instance, maybe about 5% of dreams are, or maybe 6%, but are objective. In other words, there was one time, for instance, we were staying at some friend's house that had a pool, and I woke up and I had a dream of my son falling into some water and drowning, and I ran out just in time to see him fall into the pool. That was maybe a prophetic dream or an objective, but that's much more rare. It's much rarer for dreams to be about, like, so if I dream about somebody in this class, then that's really what that person represents to me, 90% of the time. But I might be dreaming about a person, or if I dream about my daughter, or I dream about my grandkid, or whatever, maybe it's about them, but probably it's subjective. It's part of the own internal situation. Now, if the person tells you the dream in therapy, like you're coming to me for therapy, that's the transferential level. That is also, and over and over and over again, if you work with dreams, if you ask, and if you know one to work with dreams, people, like a lot of times for me now, because they've heard of me and they know me, they come and say, I know you're into dream work, and they'll tell you a dream. That first dream is usually, first of all, it's like a holograph. If you everybody know what a holograph is one of those things that's like a pyramid. It's like it could be like a necklace or something. But the point is, any holograph, if you break it into, if it's a holograph of a pyramid, and I break it into pieces, each little piece, if I shine a laser beam through it, has the whole holograph in it. Each piece has the whole holograph. Okay? Where if I take a picture and I cut it all up, each part, it's like a puzzle. Each part only has a part of the thing. That's more looking at things the objective way. But in transferential dreams, the first dream somebody tells you usually has their whole, if you look back, and I can tell you from my own analysis, some of the first dreams that I've had, I'm still working on them, like 40 years later. But the transferential idea is that you're giving a message to the therapist in the dream, or to whoever you're telling the dream to. Okay? In Jungian analysis, dreams are seen as compensating for conscious thoughts and attitudes. For instance, Viktor Frankl, who wrote a lot of, he wrote a great book called about logotherapy, which is called Man's Search for Meaning. But what it was really about is his surviving Auschwitz and what it was like in Auschwitz. And believe it or not, in a really terrible environment, people are known to have really wonderful dreams because the unconscious realize, oh, you're in a situation that sucks. So I'm going to send you really some good dreams. When things start going better for you, sometimes your dreams, because the dream is trying to always balance out. Our unconscious is trying to make us whole. So they're always kind of thesis, antithesis, synthesis. They're trying to point out the other side. This can happen as a positive function with the dream sending a message about the future conscious achievement. So that also time can change. It is a mental exercise or dress rehearsal for possibilities of what may occur in the future for the individual based on the collective and personal unconscious. Sometimes the psyche uses dreams to bring forth traumatic memories, thoughts, and emotions to the surface. That's a common thing in PTSD. It's one of the things we'll ask about. Dreams can also be positive and reductive simultaneously. So they can be reduced, like, sometimes I dream of a cigar, it's a penis, but sometimes I dream of a cigar and it's a cigar, right? That's a joke about Freud, but they can be things that are reduced back. And if you look at Freudian psychology, they're trying to reduce it back to this early childhood experience that's reducing it. Or it could be that I'm picking up on aspects of the world consciously and unconsciously, and I'm enacting that in my dream, and it's not really even coming from me. It's more synthetic. Okay. Eastern wisdom traditions considerably influenced Jung. One wonders how much Jung's final position on dreams reflects the East's dialectic. That's why I have a little picture of the yin-yang symbol. The East's dialectical dynamic and fluid philosophy. Similarly, we can ask about the Taoist philosophy of the yin-yang regulation and the reversion of the Tao, with the concept of enantiodromia. Enantiodromia is Greek for flipping over to the opposite. It's one thing, so I become so individualistic that I become collective in a way. things can flip over to the opposite. Or in the unconscious, if I'm too one-sided, like if I'm allowing, my masculine side to dominate, my feminine is going to have a revolt and things are going to move in the other direction. Or the same thing happens in cultures also, where things go so extreme in one way that they flip over to the other side, which is can be worrisome or can be an explanatory phenomenon for things that happen politically, where there seems like the world flips all of a sudden to the opposite. So enantiodromia means flipping over to the opposite, which happens a lot. If you have a client that's borderline, what that means. I said that wrong, sorry. We want to have people first language. So I've had many clients who have met criteria for borderline personality disorder, and they love you. You're the greatest thing. And then you ask them, but have you bought your checkbook? I need you to pay the bill. Then all of a sudden you're just in it for the money. That's enantiodromia too. That's called splitting, where I love you, I hate you. Come closer to me as I'm pushing you away. Those kind of things happen a lot in borderline personality disorder, and they're related to the. So Jung's, and if you go to workshops and you read Marsha Linehan, she always mentions, every workshop I've ever been to of her, she mentions how her work comes from the work of Jung. And she's also taking our technology of change. See, the main dialectic of a therapist is change versus acceptance. In other words, as a therapist, I'm supposed to fully accept you as a person and give you my unconditional positive regard and all that. Yet, you're coming at me to change. So if I approach you with a technology of change, like CBT, then I'm not accepting you the way you are, right? And so that's a dialectic that we have to always be in balance. Analytical psychology attributes Heraclitus' influence on the shaping of Jung's compensatory theory. Exploration along this line deserves a separate paper. I mean, yeah. Okay. So it's not going to be in this lecture. Okay. The Journal of the Society of Psychological Anthropology. A new wave of anthropological research expands our knowledge of how dreams reflect and actively respond to cultural, social, political, and religious influences in people's lives, which are huge meta things that we all have to deal with. Especially in times of collective change, as Michael was bringing up right now, and crisis right now, the meaning crisis that we're all experiencing, dreams become a powerful source of insight into dynamic interplay of psyche and culture. At this conference of anthropologists in the Society of Psychological Anthropology, New Directions in the Anthropology of Dreaming was the title of it, was conveyed by these professors, which I'll go into, which transpired what transpired excites me for the future of anthropological dream research and helping us understand the cultural aspects of dreaming. And it brings in an interdisciplinary approach, which we need to stop being as psychologists and MFTs in our own little silo, and realize that we need to connect with more universal phenomena. Like Bruce Knopf explored how the practices of dream yoga and deity identification among practitioners of Tibetan Buddhism produce qualities of consciousness, the level of consciousness that Western psychologists have recently recognized as lucid dreaming. Like we think Stephen LaBerge in like the 1980s invented the idea of lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming is when you're aware that you're dreaming in a dream. And like, I sometimes have lucid dreams, but for many, many years, every time I would start saying, wow, I'm dreaming, I would fly, which has its own symbolic thing about my inflation and thinking I was so good and all this other stuff that I had to deconstruct in myself. But now I don't just fly. I can do anything in this dream, and that happens very rarely. But in some cultures, it happens way more often where you're conscious while you're dreaming that's a dream. And like Carlos Castaneda in the 60s talked about the ritual way of knowledge, where one of the things he would do is if you look at your hands, and I've used that, where all of a sudden, if I notice I'm dreaming and I'm looking at my hands, I'm thinking, oh, I'm looking at my hands, I'm dreaming. Or something in the environment is like, it's not the way it is now, it's the way it was 30 years ago. I'm dreaming. Knopf describes the meditative practices, elaborate visualizations, and mantra recitations that Tibetan Buddhists use to achieve dreams of transcendent consciousness. Such dreams, he argued, can fundamentally alter experiences of subjectivity, how we feel inside of our own skin, and facilitate the realization of greater levels of self-awareness. Western psychologists are slowly recognizing that cognitive processes like these are indeed possible in the sleeping state in ways that traditional religious traditions have been actually teaching, cultivating, and documenting for centuries. So that lucid dreaming is a way of entering into and an example of that would be the simple practice of what we call dream incubation. In other words, try this, like if you have a problem that you're trying to solve or something going on in your life that you want to think, before going to sleep, think about, okay, I want to ask the spirits, or I want to ask myself or my higher level self or the dream, or I want to, I want to put out into the universe that I would like some information and some help with this particular problem. Will you do it to me in a dream? And by incubating and just having that awareness when you go to sleep, there's a lot of research that people report that the dreams have more relevance to them if they incubate the dream. Okay. Roger Lohman of Trent University shared a conversation about dreams and religions from one of his informants are the participants that when you're an anthropologist, you go and you get informants that will tell you about things. From the Asabano people of Papua New Guinea, and that picture above is an example of indigenous people of Papua New Guinea. They live in small hamlets in the forest where colonial missionaries have converted many of them to Christianity, which is the whole theory of colonization. And the colonization of the unconscious is something we could talk about. Although they have numerous holdover characteristics from their traditional spiritual beliefs and practices. The Asabano take their dreams very seriously and regard them as valuable evidence supporting their fundamental beliefs about death, heaven, and the spiritual conditions necessary for good hunting. Lohman describes how the reality of dreaming for the Asabano creates a night residue effect in their lives. And I really believe that happens to all of us. Their memories of dreaming directly influence their waking behaviors and their personal ontologies. So their idea of their being, how they're going to be in the world, really can be changed by our dream and what we dream about. And so you can be more aware of that, maybe of gender, for instance, as you go through the process of being a dad or a parent, because of a dream you had. Like if I dream of my son drowning, it's going to remind me, oh, how important that, wow, why am I worried about cleaning the house when I have to spend time with my son? It can change my actual behavior in the real world. That's something that indigenous people know, and a lot of us more technologically focused people have forgotten, especially during times of cultural crisis, like the imposition of colonial ideologies and governmental controls, like what, I don't want to go into politics, but I'm experiencing some of that right now. Such dreams creatively integrate new experiences and memories and traditions to produce what Lohman called an autonomic culture updating process. So it's autonomic, it's inside of us, like our autonomic nervous system that's updating. The culture is growing, he believes, through our dreams and our unconscious processes. Matt Newsom from Washington State described a study of collective dreams from contemporary college students in Germany, focusing on collective memories and identity formation in the shadow of World War II. So, contemporary Germans in college now. Newsom gathered several hundred dreams from a school in Berlin and found that many of them resolved around struggles and resurgent German nationalism and violence towards immigrants and refugees. In this sample from people living in a predominantly liberal city, the students felt profoundly anxious about these cultural tensions, which that's kind of a synchronicity. I believe it because it happens to me all the time. But Michael brought up the whole idea of the anxieties that people have now. That's a real thing. That profoundly anxious about these cultural tensions, and how could you live in this time and not be anxious? It's really hard to be calm in all that's going on in the world. Okay, and they are trying to develop identities grounded in some other source of collective meaning and social connection. Communitas, we call it. They're trying to ground their identity in something greater than themselves. The question of where do I belong seemed to be on the forefront of their dreams, even though this concern was rarely discussed in their waking lives. Where do I fit in with? I'm a German citizen in Germany right now. Where do I fit in into the world, into the cultural milieu that we're all fighting with and we're dealing with? Newsom said these findings supported the ideas that dreams have. This is a summary of his whole lecture, have value for identifying unspoken social and historical anxieties present in a given society. So I don't know if I doubt Michael read this ahead of time, but the question, it's interesting that came up already, the whole idea of the new anxieties that people are having. Okay. Jeanette Magino from Washington State, the co-convener of the session, focused on the importance of image-based metaphors in dreams and what they can reveal about the mental models we use to make sense of our lives. What is the meaning making that our dreams are going to tell us about? And we want to expand that not just to dreams, but the narrative structuring aspect of ourselves. We're all creating stories, and we live within this cultural milieu from movies, from television. We're embedded, and kids are watching things on shorts on YouTube that are embedding images into the mind constantly. These models shaping how we think and behave. We do not accept them passively. However, cultural models can produce tensions in an individual's life, revealed with exceptional clarity and eloquence in dreams. That's the narrative creating function of our unconscious mind. Maggio's work with contemporary American college students has shown that problematic cultural models of gender, like I put little pictures of examples, but those are both kind of problematic cultural models of gender, Rambo and Cinderella. And you could probably think of better ones. It is painfully difficult for some young adults to develop a solid, authentic sense of identity. In other words, do they really have a solid self? No. And in fact, the more healthy people may have a more fluid self in our contemporary environment. With all this lack of meaning and all the stuff, all the things we have going on, we may have to shift our identity. And a more healthy person may not be, I'm a man or a woman. They may be more non-binary or some other thing. There's so many other terms, and we need to evolve our terminology in this. And these dreams, these models of gender, like supermasculinity or Cinderella, can be observed, and they can potentially be changed through the introduction of novel metaphors and spontaneous imagery that challenge or define the model's strictures, the structure of the model, so which is kind of like structural. And an example would be up until the I think it was the 90s and the early 2000s, the feminine in vampire movies, for instance, was always the bride of the vampire, or somebody that the vampire got a hold of and did something to. It was only in this, but the new idea, the new woman is like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which was a TV show that my daughter used to watch, and I thought was a waste of time. But then I started realizing the deeper thing that was going on is they were shifting the whole idea of like, Buffy is the vampire slayer. Buffy's not the person that gets her blood sucked, and she can actually become a vampire. And there's a lot of new consciousness that was coming out in that particular literature. I'm just giving you an example. And so these gender specifications can potentially be changed through the introduction of novel metaphors and spontaneous imagery that challenge or defy our current ideas about gender, is what this particular talk is about. Okay, now these are all serial killers. Robin Sherratt from University of Hampshire has been exploring dreams as a source of insight into the experience of contemporary American college students with social media, celebrity culture, digitally mediated realities. Our reality is mediated by a machine now, where if you go back to the Industrial Revolution, people got their hands cut off, and their machines were dangerous, and it was people that we felt safety with. Now, many kids feel safer with a machine than they do in their own family of origin, at least ones that come to therapy. So in this presentation, Sharif described a subset of dreams from young women dealing with the theme of stranger murder, being randomly attacked by a serial killer. She specifically focused on those particular dreams. Sharif explored the tensions, anxieties, conflicts being expressed in these dreams, which relate in complex ways to the prevalent podcast genre of lurid stories about stranger murders. And there's a lot of podcasts. My daughter loves crime stories. At one level, the dreams function as threat simulations in Rivinzo's sense of the term, where in dreams, we redo things, as it said earlier, and we're kind of preparing ourselves for our future by kind of analyzing the things that has happened in the day and the things that are going on. And when things are happening so fastly and so quickly as they are happening in our contemporary society, we need dreams, and films are doing the same thing. They're trying to prepare us for the future, and they either do a good job or a bad job. Because unfortunately, economics can go into films. At one level, the dream function as threat simulations. Okay. Another level, Sharif showed how these dreams critique the cultural practices and social pathologies that give rise to these threats and dangers. Like, why is it, that violence is erupting from certain groups of young men, especially in our world right now? We need to understand how that happens and how violence happens in a lot of different ways. Her more significant claim was that dreaming offers a unique window into the turbulent developmental dynamics of 21st century digitally mediated subjectivity. In other words, we're exposed to so much more than what we would have been exposed to 20 years ago or 30 years ago, as far as our ability to deal with the world, which is anxiety provoking to see all the things going on continuously. For instance, when 9/11 happened, several kids really got, because they saw imagine if you're like 5 years old and you see the planes crashing into the towers over and over and over again, and you have no sense of time, and it felt like it was happening over and over and over and over again, uh, which caused a lot of anxiety and stress. Okay. Um, and so one thing about that is we need to be careful around children of criticizing the president. And I'll tell you a little story. When I was 5 years old, John F. Kennedy was assassinated. But I remember when I was 3 or 4, I thought John F. Kennedy, who I knew was the president of the United States, the leader of the country, I knew, I said, John F. Kennedy has a key to every bubblegum machine. Because that was the ultimate of everything. If you like, he had a key, he could go unlock any bubblegum machine. And so when we criticize people that have cultural power too much, it tears down the child's idea that there is something to grow into, that there is an identity that I can become. So we really need to be careful about certain types of criticism of certain people around children, because they need people to look up to. Now, it's great. We have more different, diverse people to look up to. That we want to really encourage. But whoever has certain power, that to the child, that's the person that's in control, which has both positive and negative aspects to it. And I'd like to hear what you all think about that. Or you can talk about it in your small groups too. Douglas Holohan from UCLA was on a panel. He was the designated respondent, so he was kind of keeping track of the whole thing. And he acknowledged that in recent years, the field of anthropology has not paid enough attention to dreams. The present panel was thus, the presenting panel, I should have said, was thus a significant step towards encouraging anthropologists to pay more attention to a generally cross-cultural phenomena, one that is deeply rooted in the minds and cultural environments of all humans. Holland noted the theme of dreaming as a powerful resonance during crisis and conflicts, with both personal and collective aspects of meaning. So,
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And thank you very much. This was very nice. I'm glad you all stayed in till the end. And again, my name is Brian Lippincott, and thank you to my channel. And you can like if you want, if you like this lecture, and also leave comments about anything that you want me to discuss in the future. And my book is entitled Analytical Psychology and Family Systems, Neo-Jungian Practice to Help Families Find Flow. So I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you very much.